today we're going to identify the impact of Avid through Wicker, and we're going to identify the need based on walkthrough feedback from this past week. It was actually presenting instructional content, and I'll share that with you. For the Obtain, the teacher candidates will identify Wicker and will find a correlation to implementation. So from what that is to what it actually looks like in the classroom, so where is that correlation? On the development piece, I will model to you the use of Wicker through implementation of presenting instructional content. And then for the application, the TCs will collaborate to identify components of Wicker and PIC on what we are going to do today. As an evaluation piece, the TCs will share notes and questions, summarize their goal and plan, and there's going to be some guiding questions that you will actually be answering in Google Classroom today. All right, so for our time as we spend, we're going to go back to the focus note taking. So as you begin taking notes or as you continue taking notes today, be sure to use the format of focus note taking. So your notes, and there's a space for your questions. What questions do you have? Because those questions then we can actually bring back to our team or our table or your group and then use them to discuss. And so that's going to be the format that we're going to be using when we're actually going to be meeting and working and collaborating. And then it'll give you the opportunity. In terms of the identify the need, is the data from the walkthrough. So in our first walkthrough week, this is the data in terms of your performance for reinforcement. So reinforcement, what it was at 67% was academic feedback. So the highest and strongest current reinforcement from your performance this past week was academic feedback. So when I look at the refinement, what we need to work on, what we need to grow in terms of the data, and this is what we're always going to look for as our next step, right? Because what we want to do is address the areas of need. How do we increase them? Guess what? If we address the area of need and in 2 weeks' time we decrease the size of that, another one is going to increase. Right? It's always going to happen. So it always gives us that recurring approach, organized approach to the data so that we can use it for our growth purposes. So here it is for the refinement for this week. 33% higher than the rest was presenting instructional content. Okay? So with that in mind, what I wanted to do was narrow it down a little bit in terms of the indicator. So I went to the descriptor. So if you get your NIET rubric and you find presenting instructional content, there are, yes?
For our Avid, our fifth graders, we carry a binder. They have a binder and they have to have it every day.
Yeah. And it's actually that's why I'm thinking Zaragoza, because they also have binders here at Zaragoza. The students actually keep a binder of information, which I think, here's what happens. A lot of the times we're using Avid, we just don't have a name to it. We haven't labeled it yet. But yes, I see those binders, and those are data-driven, which actually helps them set goals, right? Thank you for sharing that, Baylor. So if you notice, there are 7 descriptors within the indicator presenting instructional content. The 3 that I wanted to look at today is examples, illustrations, analogies, and labels for new concepts and ideas. The other one is modeling by the teacher to demonstrate his or her performance expectations. And the last one is no irrelevant, confusing, or non-essential information. And a lot of the things in NIET, we have seen that they connect, right? The indicators connect. This one connects to the other one. Same here. And in this particular case, what I wanted to do was highlight how these 3 can be actually connected when you're actually doing that presentation of the instructional content with your students. So now that we know the why, for the Obtain piece, we're going to actually explore Wicker. So Wicker is actually a I forgot the word. Anagram? No, it's not an anagram. What's a... Well, acronym. Thank you. Like anagram. So it's an acronym for Writing to Learn, Inquiry, Collaboration, Organization, and Ready to Learn. So there are 5 components in Wicker that make this happen. We talked about 3 specific descriptors, right? And so what we're going to do is looking at that use of visuals, using the modeling piece, and then avoiding irrelevant or confusing information. So what I'm going to do is role play just a small lesson in how I would actually go about this particular reading passage. So you all have this passage. I gave you a copy of it if you want to find it. And that's what we're going to be working on today. Right, so I'm about to begin. So for today, we're going to be learning how to develop a draft by using a cause and an effect organizational strategy to create organized and coherent pieces of writing. So notice that in our learning objective today, I've highlighted cause and effect, and I've highlighted organizational. So does anybody have an idea about what cause and effect is? What is cause? What is a cause? Or what's an effect? Does anybody know?
So it's like causes, something happens, and then because of that incident, there's an effect because of it.
Absolutely. So that's exactly what we're going to be learning today. It's how one thing actually affects the other one, right? So just simply put, an example of that could be that this morning I was running late, so I left the house without eating breakfast. Because of that, now I'm really hungry. And it's kind of like making me a little dizzy. So that's not good, right? So that happened has an effect on what's happening to me now. And so it seems like the events or things that happen to us in life all the time are connected. And as we read passages, we're going to find that there's a lot of information in here that is all connected. And so we have to identify how one thing impacts the other. And that's what we're going to be doing today. But we're going to do it in an organizational way. So we're going for that to use a graphic organizer. Okay? A simple 2-box graphic organizer that's going to help us organize our thinking so that we can see that correlation. How one cause has an impact on the effect. Or vice versa, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to read for you or with you that initial passage so you have it as well. And then I can actually use my focus note-taking, right, to actually work through this. So before we do, what do you think I'm going to be reading about today? What's our reading going to be? Why do you think it's going to be about the gorillas? There's a picture of gorillas, right? But what about the gorillas? So we're going to learn about cause and effect. So we have gorillas.
The way they sleep affects the way they are. I don't know. The relationship between all of that.
How they take care of one another.
So I hear that you're all making inferences, but those inferences are coming from the pictures because the way they sleep, mother and son or mother and daughter relationship, right? The relationships between them. So let's find out. We are definitely going to learn about the gorillas today, but I really like your predictions, and I like that you're tapping into your inferences based on the images. So that's a great way to start thinking. So I'm going to read, and the first thing that I notice is that this article is not just about any gorilla. It's about the mountain gorillas. So who knew? I honestly didn't know that there were different kinds. I always thought it was just gorillas, right? So I'm going to write here. So I wonder what other kinds of gorillas are there? I saw that movie Planet of the Apes. It makes me think, yeah, there were other different. They were not all the same, right? I wonder which were chimpanzees, which were gorillas. I remember seeing an orangutan there, so I guess I have to learn more about that. All right. So I'm going to start reading the first paragraph. For a long time, the image most people had of a gorilla encountered included chest pounding, roaring, charging, and big barrack teeth. Okay, so charging, roaring, pounding. So seems like I remember that, seeing that on TV. What was his name? King Kong. But researchers studying gorillas reveal a very different picture of mountain gorillas. So I have a question here. I wonder, it says researchers, right? Let's see, researchers. I wonder if a researcher is a scientist. Right? Because it says here, researchers studying the gorillas. And I think I've seen on TV when there are these people in the forest with the gorillas, but are they scientists or are they just jungle people? I mean, I don't know. Family group from a threat. So, the males protect their families. Right? Is that what it said? Family group. I guess it's not a little family, it's a big family, because it's a group. From a threat. I wonder who threatens them. Because gorillas are pretty strong and scary animals. I wonder who comes after them, or who could. I always see people, humans, invading their space. So I'm going to actually use my graphic organizer now, using my notes. They pound their chest, but they are mainly peaceful animals. They're vegetarian most of the times. The male protect their family. Okay, so they're right here. So gorillas pound their chest. And, well, I thought I saw it here. Something about being ferocious, right? It was here, the occasional ferocious looking. And look, ferocious. How do you spell that? Ferocious. Yes. So they pound their chest and look scary, right? That's what that means. Well, I know that they do that because they want to protect their family. So the effect would be they protect their families. So the cause they do that, they pound their chests, look very scary. The effect is that they protect their family. I'm going to put this to the test. So I'm going to use the word so. Gorillas pound their chests and look ferocious, so they protect their families. It makes sense, right? And it actually seemed to be accurate. I'm going to try this like in math and use my organization backwards. So I'm going to come back this way. I'm going to use because. They protect their families because gorillas pound their chests and look ferocious. So I think we're good. It makes sense. It supports the passage. I think I got the information from there, and I was able to establish the cause and the effect relationship. So let's then talk about what you guys saw. So I was actually modeling for you, right? Some of the components of presenting instructional content. We talked about the use of visuals, examples, non-confusing information, right? So what I did, and I didn't get to the summary part, right? But what I did was go through that process showing you the how. Because now it's your turn to continue, right? So I actually established the modeling piece with that first half of the paragraph or the passage. The second one, it's up to you. So what I want you to do is now work with your partners at your table, and at your table, the three of you, and go through that second paragraph now, and I want you to draw your own graphic organizer to identify a cause and an effect.